May 30th, 2025. A date that began like any other in Fort Pierce, Florida. Birds chirped over sunlit rooftops, the hum of morning traffic. Children getting ready for school. Life, as usual. But inside one house, on a quiet street lined with modest homes and picket fences, something unthinkable was happening. Something that would end in tragedy and leave a community in shock. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Rhonda Paulynice and her 6-year-old son, Ra'myI Pierre. This is not an easy story to hear. And I'll be honest with you, this is not just another true crime case. It's darker than most, more disturbing than you'd expect, and in many ways, more heartbreaking than any of us want to admit. So before we begin, take a breath, because what you're about to hear might stay with you. Ra'myI Pierre was just 6. Bright eyes, a little shy in front of strangers, but full of love for his mom. Neighbors described him as sweet, quiet, and curious, the kind of kid who waved at mailmen and asked a million questions about the sky. He had no idea what was coming. When police arrived at Rhonda Paulynice's home on that Friday morning, they didn't expect to find what they did. They thought it was a welfare check, a routine call. But when they stepped inside the house, everything changed. They found Rhonda in the living room, calm, collected, no signs of a struggle, no panic in her voice. And on the floor, lying motionless, was Ra'myI, his tiny body, cold, still, lifeless. It was already too late, but it's what Rhonda told police next that would chill investigators to the bone. She said, "God told me to do it." Rhonda believed her son was possessed by demons, that he was no longer her child, but a vessel for evil. She said God gave her a mission to drive the demons out, and that if she succeeded, her son would come back to life. Let me say that again. She truly believed her 6-year-old son was possessed, and that God had chosen her to save him. Rhonda then admitted she attempted what she called an exorcism, not a spiritual ritual with a priest, not a religious rite in a church, but something she did by herself in her home. No one else was there, just her and her little boy. We don't have all the details of what happened inside that room. Investigators have been tight-lipped for good reason. But what we do know is that Ra'myI died during the process, that his death wasn't peaceful, and that he may have suffered. And yet, Rhonda didn't run. She didn't try to hide. She didn't even call 911 right away. Instead, she waited. She believed wholeheartedly that he would rise again, that once the demons were gone, God would return her son to her. So she sat with his body for hours, waiting for a miracle. But that miracle never came. And when the police finally arrived, they found her still waiting, still calm, still convinced. She had done the right thing. Now, let me ask you something. As a parent, a sibling, a human being, how do you even begin to understand that kind of mindset? It's horrifying. But it's not just horror, it's tragedy. Because if what Rhonda said is true, if she really believed she was saving her son, then this wasn't a case of hate. It was a case of delusion, of untreated, unrecognized, and ignored mental illness. Family members told investigators that Rhonda had been acting differently for weeks, becoming obsessed with religious ideas, talking more about demons, about spiritual warfare, isolating herself from others, saying she could hear God's voice, but no one intervened, no one stepped in. And now, a child is dead. Ra'myI should have been starting 1st grade, learning to ride a bike, getting birthday presents, watching cartoons and spilling juice on the floor. Instead, his life ended in the most tragic way imaginable, at the hands of the one person who was supposed to protect him from everything, his mother. Rhonda Paulynice was arrested and charged with 2nd-degree murder. She is currently being held without bail. She showed no signs of remorse, no breakdown, no tears, because she didn't believe she did anything wrong. She believed she was obeying God. And that is what makes this case so terrifying. Because when mental illness mixes with religious obsession, the results can be catastrophic. And in this case, they were fatal. Now I know some of you watching might be thinking, she's a monster. And maybe you're right. But here's the uncomfortable truth. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Mental illness doesn't always look like what we see in movies. Sometimes it wears the face of a loving mother, a church-goer, a neighbor who waves from her porch. Rhonda's behavior changed over time, slowly, quietly, and no one saw how dangerous it had become until it was too late. That's what makes this story so haunting. It wasn't just one act of violence, it was a slow descent that no one noticed. And the cost of that silence was a child's life. If someone, anyone, had stepped in. If a neighbor had called for a wellness check, if a family member had pushed for mental health intervention, maybe this story wouldn't exist. Maybe Ra'myI would still be alive. Instead, we're here, telling the story of a little boy who didn't need an exorcism. He needed help. He needed safety. He needed someone to see what was happening before it was too late. And now, all we can do is say his name. Ra'myI Pierre, 6 years old, born in 2019, died in 2025. And hopefully, never forgotten. Before we end today's video, I want to speak directly to you. If you know someone who's struggling with mental health, with obsessive beliefs, with signs of delusion or paranoia, don't ignore it. Don't wait. Don't assume someone else will step in. Your voice might be the one that saves a life. And if you're the one struggling, please, please know you are not alone. There is help. There is hope. And you are not weak for asking for it. Ra'myI's story is a tragedy, but maybe, just maybe, if we learn from it, if we stay alert, if we act early, we can prevent the next one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring, and most of all, thank you for remembering Ra'myI Pierre. We'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe. Stay safe and stay aware.